This morning, the plans for ghost guns are up online. These are firearms and components for rifles and guns that can be created by anyone at home who has a 3D printer.
The president weighed in on it this morning, saying, "I'm looking into 3D plastic guns being sold to the public. Already spoke to the NRA. Doesn't seem to make much sense." But it was the Trump State Department that dropped the lawsuit preventing the designer from posting his blueprints. The Obama administration had started those proceedings, arguing the plans could be downloaded by terrorists and violated federal laws governing firearms technology exports. And beyond dropping the lawsuit, the Trump administration is looking at changing the very rule the designer was originally sued under. And to the second part of the president's tweet, there is no word why he would check in with the gun lobby.
Right.
Can we just back this up again? Or why that conversation may have taken place?
Is that your first instinct?
Let's just slow it down. The NRA is a special interest group. He didn't say he spoke to the Department of Justice or the State Department. He's not speaking to any other gun control groups. But the president took to Twitter to say, "I've reached out to the NRA." So those of you who have chanted over and over, "Drain the swamp," walk us through,
why you'd go to this,
why would
the industry
you contact the largest lobbying special interest group ever, the NRA, on what to do about the ghost gun?
All right, as of last week, one of the organization's videos called 3D printed guns, the NRA, by the way, called them freedom and innovation. NBC's Tom Costello has more on the guns and why the president should be checking, as Stephanie says, with his own State Department rather than the NRA.
This morning, growing pushback against a new type of firearm that some people can actually build in their own home. 8 attorneys general now asking a judge to block a Texas company from publishing the downloadable instructions for 3D printers to manufacture guns. From handguns to semi-automatics. Made of plastic and without a serial number, the guns are untraceable and undetectable, able to pass through most metal detectors.
Welcome to the age of the printed magazine.
30-year-old Cody Wilson is the face of a new gun movement.
No, gun control is not dead. It's undead. Gun control is undead.
The Obama administration took Wilson to court to stop his company from posting the instructions online, arguing it would put guns in the hands of terrorists. But Cody Wilson insisted he has a First Amendment right to publish, and the instructions were already online anyway. In June, the Trump administration dropped the court fight with Wilson.
As long as you have the right to keep and bear arms, you have the right to make them.
Fred Gutenberg's 14-year-old daughter Jamie was one of 17 people who died at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School last February.
This changes the safety of Americans forever if this is allowed to happen.
Plastic guns, he fears, will bring even more gun violence to a country already reeling.
Someone can walk in with a gun and you won't know it. Airplanes, you'll be flying with someone with a gun and you won't know it. Courthouses, someone with a gun and you won't know it. That's the risk.
Okay, let's have a look at what these 3D printed guns actually are. Conventional gun manufacturing requires a permit, and all guns produced must bear a serial number so they can be traced if stolen or used in a crime. But with 3D printing, there's no way to enforce these laws. Components can be printed without any oversight and any record keeping. The site offers files that allow users to print polymer components on demand. So now to build a gun, you don't need to purchase industrial machine working equipment or have special expertise. Among the firearm components on the site are plans to print a full Beretta M9 handgun and the lower receiver for an AR-15. You won't be able to print the entire rifle due to printer limitations, but you can print out several key components that allowed the designer to fire 600 rounds continuously in a test earlier this year. So this is real. And more concerning to lawmakers is the Liberator. This was the first weapon designed by the group posting the plans. It's a single-shot polymer weapon. The only non-3D printable parts are the ammunition and a small nail that's used in place of a firing pin. Up here. All right. Some lawmakers worry the guns run afoul of the Undetectable Firearms Act of 1988. The designer put a small metal piece into the handle of the first Liberator, although he said it was out of goodwill and that others aren't obligated to do so. Joining us now is Avery Gardner, co-president of the Brady Campaign, a gun control advocacy group.
Avery, some people are saying this is just a novelty item and there's no reason to fight back that hard against it. It's just one simple gun. It's not a semi-automatic weapon. But if this thing is cleared and people can suddenly print this, where could we quickly devolve to?
People who are saying that this is only about one kind of gun are mistaken and misguided. What Cody Wilson has said is that he wants to have a, quote, Cambrian explosion of 3D printable guns.
What does that
with
mean?
Plans from his site, meaning an explosion of different kinds of guns, in fact, all types of firearms, he has said is his goal to have on this site. So there's a journalist who a couple of years ago 3D printed an AR-15 using Cody Wilson's plans. This is not just about one simple kind of handgun. This is about weapons of war being made in people's living rooms and in the living rooms of foreign terrorists abroad.
You know, the president, we're a little puzzled by the president's tweet in which he said he's reached out to the NRA. Has he reached out to groups like yours, your group, or similar groups? It just seems strange that the first outreach would be to the NRA.
Well, the president took $30 million in campaign contributions from the NRA and has been at their side every step of the way, so I'm not entirely surprised by that. But look, the government has known for years that my organization, the Brady Center, has a keen interest in this case because we filed a brief in the Fifth Circuit as an amicus. And they did not reach out to us before they came to this settlement. We didn't hear from either the Department of Justice or the Department of State. And that's one of the really troubling things here is why this settlement, why now? As recently as April, the government maintained that putting these plans online was a threat to national security and international peace.
So we
have no idea what changed.
So what do your contacts at the State Department, I'm sure you interface with the government all the time, when they made this settlement, which now is done, it's not like you can put the toothpaste back in the tube, did they give you any rationale?
Not only did they not give us any rationale, they didn't even give us a heads up it was coming. We learned about it in the press, just like everybody else. And the very next day, we sent a Freedom of Information Act request to the government, asking for the documents about this settlement. Who was involved in it? Who made these decisions? What were the facts that changed that caused the government to do a complete 180? Now, they haven't gotten back to us yet. And if they don't get back to us in accordance with the statute, we will have to sue the Trump administration again to get these documents. Look, we think the public has a right to know, but as you say, it's probably going to be too late.
The guy who's doing this, Corey, he's wrapped himself all up in the Constitution on this one. He calls this a First Amendment expression of his Second Amendment rights. Now, obviously, this is something that you come up against a great deal. There is a Second Amendment that allows some gun usage and ownership in this country. What's your response to that argument?
Well, first of all, we have absolutely no concerns about safe, responsible Americans owning guns and having them stored safely in their homes. I grew up with guns, and I don't have any concerns about most Americans having a gun in the home. The issue comes when we're talking about dangerous people having guns in the home. And courts have held for generations that there are some people who cannot have a gun because they are too dangerous. Felons and domestic abusers fit into that category. This notion also that the First Amendment is some unfettered right to speak anything, anytime, anywhere is simply untrue. We have lots of limits on Second Amendment rights and on First Amendment rights. I mean, you can't shout fire in a crowded theater. There are lots of ways that we think that we need to protect public safety from people who would pretend that they're just exercising some right.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.